Hey, it's your boy, Sergeant Inventions. So this is the second time I've recorded this video for my overall thoughts and sort of review on Kamen Saber. Um, this one was a tough one. It was the first time in a while, a couple firsts for me, and not in a good way. First time since Ghost that I've fallen off on the season of Rider that's currently airing and not watched it all the way through and then had to go back and watch it, from where I dropped it. Um, well, actually, that happened a couple times. I mean, I didn't like drop it. I would like sporadically come back in and pick myself back up. But anyway, where I didn't like watch every episode back to back, all the way through every week. And also the first that I never got any merchandise from, which is odd to me as well. But also part of it is has to do with my overall feelings of the show. When Saber started, I thought it was a really cool idea. I liked the idea of the books. I liked the idea of the story and how the main character Toma was a novelist who I'm a writer, he's a writer, so I vibed with that. And, the whole swordsman aesthetic and the swords being, the swordplay being a heart of the combat and the fight choreography, the driver being this little like you put the sword in, you pull it out and it opens the books up. I like that whole aesthetic and how much they really integrated the book aesthetic into everything. Um, and honestly, all of the Seiken are cool. All of the holy swords are really cool. I like pretty much every one of them. Um, and there are a large chunk of characters I really enjoy. And there are bits of the story I really enjoy, honestly. Um, but I think that Saber's big failing points are pacing and sometimes not having the strongest writing in certain parts. And also a bigger thing that's more of a speaks to more of a problem with Rider as a whole is Rider and Sentai to an extent sometimes have a problem with killing a character off and leaving them dead. Not that a lot of shows, don't do that aren't even tokusatsu, but it's kind of sort of a thing that happens a lot in Rider where a character will die and it's like, wow, that was really sad. And then 20 episodes later, somehow they miraculously return. And it's like, okay, that takes away from the emotional, pain of their death when they're just going to return later. Case in point, full spoilers going forward. I'm going to talk about the entire show. So if you have not watched Saber, probably shouldn't watch a review on Saber. but uh, case in point, Kento. Um, he started out as an interesting character. Him and Rintaro both being loyal to the Sword of Logos, both being friends of Toma's. Rintaro being a newer friend, Kento actually being a friend from his childhood that he kind of forgot about, and them both wanting to find and save Luna. Um, and I like that aesthetic and their little trio thing where they all Rintaro, Toma, and Kento were super mega bros. I really liked that. I thought that was really strong. Their fights against the Megis were really strong because of that, and just in general, the dynamic worked really well. Up until the point when Kento died. When Kento died, it was tragic and it worked. But then after that, I feel like the show sort of struggled with where it was going to go next with its next narrative beat. Which after that first arc of dealing with Caliber, with Dragonic Knight, and being able to finally defeat Caliber and blah blah blah, and Kento's death, we move on towards the Logos conspiracy arc, if you will, where Toma's trying to figure out what's going on with the Sword of Logos. And we have the introduction of Reika Shindai, who is Sabella, Comrade Sabella, who is this higher up, is one of the higher up swordsmen in the organization who works for Master Logos. And she's decent as a character at first, but she is. I don't really know what the show was trying to do with her because she was a threat at first. This whole girl boss persuading everybody to turn against Toma thing that was actually working somehow. It was a little goofy because it's they all clearly trusted Toma and all of a sudden what? She said he's bad? He must be bad. And it's okay, or maybe not, be puritanical about it and be our higher up council member said he's evil, so he must be evil. He must be the devil. It's a little odd. Um, so that was goofy. Backing off the story for a little bit, Toma is not my favorite protagonist, main writer. Honestly, I think they should have called the show Kamen Rider Blades because Rintaro is an amazing, amazing character. all the way through. He has really, really great arcs, especially, honestly, he has the best arc, in my opinion, in that like Logos conspiracy arc or whatever, because you can see him really struggling with the fact that he doesn't want to go after and see his friend Toma as a criminal, but he's being pulled on one side of his friendship to Toma, and he's being pulled on the other side to his loyalties to the Sword of Logos, and that's his family that he's always known ever since he was a child. You know, he's been raised in the order, and he's been, you know, raised as a swordsman, and so he's struggling between these two parts of himself, and I think that worked really well for his character. Um, so he was decent. Kento started out decent and then just kind of became a big yawn, in my opinion. Um, and my problem with Toma is that, like, they start out with him being a novelist, and I feel like, honestly, most of the way through until the end of the whole entire season, they don't really do a lot with that. Kind of. The most they do with it is him creating Dragonic Knight, if I'm not mistaken. He kind of made the Dragonic Knight power up. Um, but that was really it. And it wasn't really until the crossover with for Superhero Senki, leading up to Superhero Senki with Zenkaiger, that I was like, oh right, yeah, he's a novelist. Like, you know, and I get it. Like, you know, sure, a primary writer's like life outside of being a superhero doesn't always have to be there all the time, but when it's there, it adds some like credibility and some like reality to what's going on. When you look at someone like Aruto in Zero One, sure, you may say what you will, you may not like him, you like him, whatever, but he never was not a CEO. He never wasn't trying to be funny or be a comedian. Those things were at the forefront of his character all the way through. Um, and he was challenged by both parts by those both parts of himself, those both of those parts within himself all the time. Whereas Toma, I feel like as soon as he like became a Kamen Rider and became a member of the Sword of Logos, he kind of just didn't really do much and sort of forgot entirely that he was a novelist. Like he would mention it here and there and talk about it, but like there was no talk of deadlines or I got an idea for a story or anything like that. And I understand that as he started being a writer, he started learning, oh, like Luna is actually alive. I gotta go find my friend Luna, and oh my God, Kento, and all these things. But it what happened in my opinion to me, Toma only ever was decent when he was about to get a power up, which is odd because like a writer should not be defined by their power ups. They should be like decent enough written without that, you know. But he's his strongest point with the Dragonic Knight stuff. He picks up again with the Primitive Dragon stuff, especially with that I really actually liked because I like that whole arc with Primitive Dragon. But we'll get there. And then near the end with Cross Saber and all of that, again he picks up again as a character, but also why do I care? Like he's not like strong all the way through. I was never worried about Toma. I never like had any stakes with oh no Toma, are you gonna be okay? I didn't care. I cared about Rintaro and some of the other characters, but not him. Other than him, I really enjoyed Slash. I really enjoyed Buster. I really enjoyed the end of Ren slash Kenzan's arc. Um, and I really liked Yuri. Those are probably my favorites out of the whole cast of everybody. The Shindai siblings are not my favorite. I'm just gonna say it right now. Their suits are decent, their swords are cool, the effects for their attacks are cool, and the start of their characters were interesting. But they don't do anything with them after that first like conspiracy arc and all that. All of a sudden it's just heel turn. Oh, guess what? We're good. Except that you were working with this shadowy part of the organization trying to like take it over from within and give power to this megalomaniacal psychopath leader who wanted to take over the world, but now you're good because the story says you should be. Excuse me. It was an odd heel turn that didn't make any sense. I honestly wish Reiko would have stayed like an antagonist like throughout the whole story, which was odd that she didn't. And I know it's been said to death, but the whole weird goofy anime like thing where she gets like mad when somebody has a thing for her brother and Oni-sama and all that, but just please stop it. It's so weird. It's verging on incest and it makes me uncomfortable and it makes me dislike them more, which is interesting because there's not much to them, so I don't know how I can dislike something that's not much of a solid thing, you know? Um anyway, So past that conspiracy arc, we get to the self-primitive dragon and Yuri and all that. That picks up really well. I love Yuri. I love that he's like a sentient sword, sort of, and like has to learn to be human again. His backstory with Bacht is really good. I liked the summer movie with Bacht and Falcone. All that was really good. Um, and yeah, but and also like speaking to villain characters, as far as villains, none of them Megid blew me away as bad guys. I'm trying my best not to like shit on the series because I know a lot of people like the show, but at the same time, like I just didn't care about any of them. And then they do this whole thing where they're all of a sudden trying to set a bunch of them up as like rivals to Toma, Rentaro, and Kento, except Rentaro's would be Zeus because Zeus killed his master. That's good. Okay. Storius. They don't even do anything with Kento. They should have, but they don't do a thing with him having one at all. All of a sudden, Legiel is like, I hate Toma, and then he gets killed. And then Storius also goes after Toma. It's like, so what's the point of having, like, clearly you're focusing, like, the heart of this show is supposed to be this trio, and you're not going to give a rival to one member of the trio? That seems odd to me. um, so yeah, the Megid were like interestingly designed. I liked their monster forms. The suits were cool, and I like them like as an idea as an antagonist group. But overall, they're just kind of okay. I guess you could say, like they just kind of are there. Um, Master Logos is a decent bad guy, I think. He's kind of on that same wavelength of like Kuroto Dan, where he's just like an absolute goofy psychopath. So it's just entertaining to watch him do weird shit, other than the weird spit thing. And you know what I'm talking about. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Weird mouth spit thing. Okay. Um, but he was fun to watch, and I was kind of sad that he gets like pretty brutally murked by Storius out of nowhere, which I thought was an odd way for that to go because I never saw Storius as a threat that much. But, who am I but a mere viewer of the show? Um, so that arc's okay. The Print of Dragon arc is decent, only because I like the idea that this is like a living book that like at one point was a full-on dragon and like a sacrifice part of itself. It's been abused and it's hardened its heart, and that's why it takes on this berserker form. And he learns to connect with it, the whole handshake thing when he becomes elemental dragon, and it's like the handshake of the primitive dragon hand, the elemental dragon hand together. So I like that whole thing, and I thought it was cool when Primitive Dragon showed up in the final fight to help, because it was like, hey, I like your stories. I don't want this to end just yet. I'm here to help. And I was like, that's pretty fucking cool. Um, but but yeah, once Metro Logo was left, I was like, I don't care about anybody else that's left. Storius is so boring. He's just like emo the character. Like he's just like angst the character, I guess. Like he's just like, I used to be a poet, but then I figured out that humanity's the worst and they'll never understand me. It's like, shut up, nobody cares. Go in your room, get a haircut, and get a job. Maybe it's the parent in me. I don't know. But anyway, um, so that was kind of goofy when we lost Metro Logo so quick because I actually thought he was like an alright villain. Um, and then the whole thing with Cross Saber and everything is cool, but it's kind of just like a bit of a like Gone with a Whimper type of thing. Like it's cool. It's like, oh wow, cool Cross Saber, and you have like different variations of it, like featuring Cross Saber and whatever. Like the one that had like when he uses Rentaro, his like Brave Dragon, Lion Senki, and Lion or Lamp to Elengina together in the driver with Cross Saber, and he gets that form that embodies all three of them with the Cross Saber like color over it. I love the design of Cross Saber. Really, really nice. We'll get to suit designs in a little bit. Um, so that was fun because then that's how they would end up beating Master Logos. Um, but it was goofy because it like wasn't used really to defeat Storius. We get this goofy repeat thing, and I'm of the mindset in the camp that I don't like this to be a trend in Reiwa where the final form is just this weird, like barely a variation of the base form thing. I don't understand why that's a thing and why that's cool. Like I like that the book looks different and it's got this little piece. It's like this. It's got this little piece up here, doing the thing. It's interesting to look at, and I like that it gave a different power set to it, where he like combined mixed and matched powers of the different ride books. That was kind of cool. But also the suit's just Brave Dragon, so I don't care, like, to me, with a final form of rider, it's got to be something that's the final evolution of the rider as a character and their pinnacle of their development and their development as a rider and as a warrior, and the power that they get as a final form, looking and feeling like it's just completely on a different level than everything else. It's a very shonen anime type of thing, way to look at it, but it's kind of how a rider works. I just recently watched Ghost, like Mugen form is like the pinnacle of infinite potential humanity, and how he's using that to help fight against the Gamma and blah blah blah, right? Um, but I don't know how I feel about Wonder Almighty and all of that. Like, and I hope it's not like a trend. Somebody already made a joke with Revice. It's like, oh look, the final form's revealed already. Holy cow! And it's just a picture of Revy and Vice, their normal base form. Like, get it? Huh? Um, so again, I think that it's a unique idea if they were to just kind of take it and run with it a little bit. Um, if it was looked like base, like Brave Dragon, but it was like a bit more extra color and armor pieces to it, I would have even taken Brave Dragon's color mixed with pieces of his other forms, like mix in some Dragonic Knight, mix in some primitive Elemental Dragon, mix in some Cross Saber. I don't know. Like if it was like a mishmash of all those together, that's different. But when we already have Cross Saber, which is this really cool like galaxy bluish galaxy paint, starry paint job over the suit or whatever, it looks really cool. I don't care about this weird final book thing that's Luna and she dies and she becomes a book and oh I'll always be with you, Toma, and the power of friendship. It's like, I know that this show is written for children. It's got to be simple, it's got to be cut to the chase, it's got to be something they can understand, something they can easily see and get, and I understand that. But it was just kind of a letdown, as was a good chunk of the finale. I like what they're going for, the power of stories, the power of imagination, how stories link us, how they bring us together as families, as groups, and we continue to tell them to teach the next generations and warn them about things that are happening and prepare them for the future and learn new things, break traditions and make new traditions and things like that. I totally get that. I think that's an awesome narrative thing. But the ending is so, like, absolutely as happy as it can possibly be, and then randomly not also. Like, Toma dies and everybody else dies, and then they don't, because, like, the power of story, I guess. Kinda. I don't know. And then like it was really odd and silly to me. And then like so they're good, but then like the Meggy don't get to come back, but also the Meggy are like, wow, that Toma, he's a small guy, and it's like, except you guys just were wanting to murder him, so I don't. Where did this come from? And then like, so they don't get to come back, and neither does Tassel Victor or whatever. It's like, why wouldn't he get to, like, it's just like chooses who gets to come back, like what chose who got to come back. I don't understand. But yeah, the whole weird thing, like Toma being like, it's a whole year later and she may release his book, which is cool. That's like, oh hey, remember he's a novelist, as if he gave a shit. um and then he like is then in like a new version of Wonderworld or something. And that's not even to say the final episode with like the Revy Vice thing with their cameo, which is cool. Farting aside, which I could take it or leave it. We'll see how the real show is. I don't even think Revice's writer was even writing that part, but whatever. Um, I liked the parts with Rintaro and May and him stumbling over his words to try and tell her how much he cares about her and wants to like be in a relationship with her, and then it applies near the end with them wearing blue together, that and playing like a love harp noise that they're together. um, but I nothing else really happens. Like it kind of gives a little bit of stuff, but it's just like, oh look, Reika still simps for her brother, which is weird. And all of a sudden, her brother is randomly making googly eyes at May, which turns into nothing. And then I like that Slash is making a new holy sword, and Mr. Ogami is going to become a teacher, which is cool. But Ren's just going to go train and get stronger, whatever that means. I don't care about you, Ren. um, and yeah, and I like that they're changing up the structure of the sort of logos itself, so there's no master logos. It's just like a console. Like that's cool, but it's just the thing with Saber that's odd is there's like a lot of really cool parts. I'm like, yeah, you got it. Okay, there's this, there's this, there's this. All right, we're connecting them, and then like somebody comes in and just like smacks your hand in the middle of it. It's like why? And then you try and do it again. You almost get it connected again. Then someone smacks it again, and it's like you don't like why? Why is this happening? It's very odd, and it just like it has these cool moments, and then in between is just like this nothing, I don't care garbage, and then about cool another cool moment, and then I don't care nothing, and then another cool, you know. So, um, I will sum it up like this: I enjoy the visuals of Saber. Absolutely, I love the suits. Pretty much every single suit in that show is great. Draconic Knight, Elemental Dragon to an extent, Cross Saber, um, uh, the final form for Rintaro that escapes my mind, the King Lion Daisenki or whatever it is, the final like white wolf or not white wolf, white lion form thing was really cool. I love this like spinning book thingy on his belt. It was so cool. Um, I liked Zhao Dragon, the upgrade for Caliber. I liked X Swordsman. And honestly, a majority of the suits, pretty much every suit, I enjoyed. I really did. Even honestly, even Stories' and Logos' suit were pretty cool. The book aesthetic was really cool. I love the henshin sequences, although they're a little long and drawn out. You only let the book read out all its text all the time. Um, I liked a hand pick of characters, so definitely Rintaro slash Buster, Yuri, the end of Ren's arc, and sometimes Toma and May. I mean, if you're talking about riders, but I mean, if you want to include May, then also May. Um, Everybody else, I don't really care. Like I said, the Shinai siblings, I think would have been a better dynamic for them is if they would have swapped it and made him younger, made her older, and had him trying to prove himself to her that he can protect himself and like whatever. But then I guess that would have been too similar to Ren. But I don't. It's really, really freaking weird. The whole like, don't like any girl. Oh, stop it, Onisama. Like, stop. That's incest and weird, and that's not funny. I get Japan. They have different ways of looking at certain things. I'm not trying to say anything negative like that, but they might have different ways of, how the storyline writing looks to them as it does to us, and that's not what they were implying. But it feels very weird and uncomfortable to me, and I did not like that at all, and it made me dislike her character entirely and her brother to an extent as well. Honestly, the siblings are the best they are in this crossover with Zenkaiger, which is sad. A crossover should not be where your characters of your base show are the strongest. They can have some cool moments, but that shouldn't be where they're the strongest. That's a little odd to me. Um, so there were some strong characters. Again, I like overall how it looks. The music is really great. Um, I like the fight choreography, absolutely. There are some awesome story moments. Some of the power up moments and stuff like that were really cool, and I really enjoyed them. But Saber just, I feel like, fell apart, like I said, with its pacing and with connecting its different narrative points together with stuff we're supposed to care about. Like, Kento dies, and then he's gone, and then all of a sudden he's back as Caliber. And now I see the future, and now I have to prevent this. I'm going to prevent my friend's death by sealing away their holy swords, which would mean they wouldn't have them to protect themselves if somebody tried to kill them, so therefore they'll die anyway, so what's the point? I don't like it was an interesting thing that he was trapped in the sword and like kept flooding his head with all these different ways of seeing the world and that like affected him, but not really because he ends up as pretty much the same Kento near the end of the story anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Um, so yeah, again, I want to be careful with this because I do know that a lot of people love Saber. To me, it's definitely not my top 10. Um, Not my top 5 at all, not my top 10. It had enjoyable parts. There were definitely really funny parts. There were definitely heartfelt moments. But to me, it felt very disjointed and like it didn't quite know what it wanted to do all the way through. And it's weird when a show is stronger in its like crossover and extra content type of things than it is in the show itself. To me, that's not a good sign. Again, if you guys feel different and you guys really liked it, that's totally fine. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of where I sit with Saber. Would I rewatch it? Maybe rewatching it without having to wait week to week for things would make it, a little bit different, and maybe I would see it differently being able to watch it all the way through. But at this point, I think my score would probably sit somewhere safely around a 7 out of 10. It is not the worst season of Rider. There is not, to me, a worst season of Rider, honestly. Like, I understand that the beauty of Toku in general is that with Rider, Sentai, Ultraman, whatever you're watching, there is a season for everybody. There's a season that somebody latched onto and it's their favorite. Somebody's first season is Saber. Somebody's favorite heartfelt season is Saber. Is Kuga, Agito, Ryuki, Phase, Bleed, Hibiki, Decade, Double, Forze, whatever it may be. That's their season, and that's cool. And I'm not trying to tell anybody that if they like this season, you're a big dummy and you should feel bad and plus you're stinky. Like, no. But it's just, it was odd to watch, to like be hyped about watching the next season and it being the new season that's, airing and everything week to week, and not like be as hyped for it all the way through and fall off at certain points. Like, that hasn't happened to me ever with any season of Rider. And definitely odd that I was like somewhat interested in getting the Dogoken Gekido, the big giant buster, Kamen Rider Buster's big ass sword thing, especially with the blade enhancement, like the extender thing. But other than that, I wasn't really wanting any of the driver stuff for it. Um, but but yeah, and as far as the cameo for Revy and Vice, I think it was cool to see their dynamic. I don't think the farting goofiness thing is going to be all the time with him. I don't think it's right to compare him to Momotaro's because they're two completely different characters. And I think we should let like opinions on who they are as a character and on the show itself and getting ready for it be when the show airs. Like, I understand it's a cameo, it's supposed to get you hyped up, and if it didn't, it didn't, and that's fine. For me, I'm really pumped about it. I like the driver. I like the setup of this guy with a demon in his heart that like transforms with him. I think it's really cool. It's like a nice twist on O's, in my opinion, sorta. And I like that. I'm a big fan of O's. I love O's. So I really liked it. I thought the cameo was decent. The farting didn't need to be there, but it didn't like hurt me. I guess it didn't bother me. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, this is for little kids sometimes. It's okay. It was just like this ineffectual thing. It didn't really bother me. Um, but yeah, so like I said, Saber probably be somewhere around safely a 7 out of 10. Was it, an absolutely stellar season? Nope. Did it have some cool moments? Absolutely. Some great forms and character moments, heartfelt moments. Cool. But the tissue in between the bigger narrative pieces here, I just didn't care, and it didn't string together strongly enough in my opinion, and that made me kind of upset because I was really hoping for it. Because at the start it was really strong, and it's like just after Kento's death it starts to kind of start to flounder, and then we get into Reika and it really starts to get to flounder, and then it's like everybody all of a sudden turning against Toma, and it's like, what are we doing with our lives? And it was odd, so um love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. I'm sure I'm going to get roasted to pieces, and probably on Twitter when this goes up. But that's just where I feel with it. I mean, if you guys loved it, that's awesome. Were there moments where I was like rooting? Absolutely, there was cool moments like that, but not as many consecutively throughout the whole show to make it like, oh my god, 10 out of 10, perfect season. Zenkaiger, different. Zenkaiger being Sentai, it's kind of hard to compare it. Zenkaiger, I've been entertained and loving it all the way through. Not let down by a single dangle thing yet. So, yeah, that's where we sit with Saber. I probably will change things up, and for Revice, I will try to do week to week, episode reviews for that if I can. Clearly the Toku Toy views as far as like driver and stuff like that. But thank you guys so much for watching. I know it's a longer video, about a half hour here. Thank you so much for subscribing and for commenting, sharing the videos. We're above 200 subscribers. I think 212, 215 subscribers. So holy cow! I thank you guys so much. Like I said, I'm not really doing it to make money, but I do really enjoy it. Maybe someday I'll make enough views that I can make money off of this somehow. I don't know. I don't know how that works, and if it's even possible with how YouTube screws over creators. But Anyway, regardless, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for supporting me, for sharing, for commenting, for watching the videos. Let me know what you think. Let me know. Tell me in the comments, what did you guys think about Saber? Did you like the characters, the suits? What were your favorite moments? Things like that. Do you think I'm a big dumb idiot who's stinky himself? Maybe that's true. Ugh. Um, but anyway, until next time, stay hooked on Henshin's. We'll see you guys later. We'll do some more stuff, Zenkaiju reviews, stuff like that, Revice, whatever. Bye bye. See you later.